Okay, folks, if you haven't already, please do go over to my shorts collection on YouTube and check out my defense of Scott Adams. I think you'll be impressed with how eloquently I make my case. Now, I wanted to expand upon all that somewhat and link it to another pet project of mine, which is examining the Rippaverse, which is helmed by Eric July. It is a comic book company whose first comic, I Saw #1, came out this year to amazing fanfare, $3.7 million campaign haul, and who knows what the next issue is going to bring in. So that's something that I hope to cover with another guest YouTuber at some point. And the thing is, though, is that Eric July and Scott Adams seem to share a flaw, and I have never seen it in Scott Adams evidenced so greatly than in the last few weeks. I mean, it started when he made his apology about being wrong about the pandemic. Now, if you watch him and if you watched his apology, you could tell it was a non-apology apology. He was basically having it both ways. He was apologizing for being wrong, while at the same time, he was trying to show people that it was impossible to be right. And, yeah, a lot of that went over people's heads. So he tried to do it again this week. So he made what people are calling a racist tirade, and honestly, I will tell you, it sounded like that to me too. And here's the problem. Although he swears up and down, at least he did on his latest podcast, that he was not being racist except in the sense that everyone is racist, I think Scott Adams has finally found out that you can't always have it both ways. Sometimes you have to be clear about what it is you're actually saying. And you cannot just say, well, I said what I said, and I know what I meant, and if you didn't get it, hey, that's your failure. You were the one who failed to understand. I communicated perfectly. Apparently not. You're now seeing that Dilbert is getting dropped from certain newspaper groups. This may wind up being the end of Scott Adams' Dilbert empire. But I wanted to tie that briefly to the attitude of Eric July toward all of the nitpicking that goes on with the Rippaverse. That's his word for it. It's nitpicking. If you find something that doesn't adequately communicate what is going on in the comic book, well, you're just nitpicking because he and his art and his crew did everything right, and if there's something you don't understand, well, that's just a failure on your part. You were the one who didn't receive the communication. It wasn't that I said anything amiss. It wasn't that we did anything to broadcast the wrong information to you, such that you either couldn't understand it or took it in a way that made things confusing for you. That's entirely on you. Don't come to us with your complaints. Okay? That is the attitude he's got. And my fear is that if he continues with that attitude, the way that Scott Adams continued with his, he's going to wind up with a downfall just as large as Scott Adams, because eventually people are going to realize, I can't read this thing. I don't know what's going on here, and I'm not about to spend another $35 to $50 on a comic book that isn't done well enough for me to grasp, just without having to interpret it. Okay? So that is what I hope does not happen to Eric July. I hope that eventually, at least maybe after I Saw #2, because certainly nothing I said to him regarding I Saw #1 took hold, I hope that after I Saw #2, he becomes more receptive to criticism about things that happen in the book. Now, could be that sneakily, while defying all the criticism that I've given, he's actually taken some of it to heart, and maybe this book that comes out next, I Saw #2, will be a much better book. I would love that, okay? That is the best case scenario. If he can put together a book that does not irritate me with its errors and flaws the way that ISOM number 1 did, I will be a very, very happy consumer, and I will have great aspirations and intimations of the future of the Rippaverse. That is the best case scenario. The worst case scenario, crash and burn, just like Scott Adams appears to be. I'm Mike Partika. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later.